As a sect disciple choosing my guardian beast, I miraculously obtained the legendary primordial chaos monkey. Just as I prepared to shine in the upcoming immortal sect trials, my primordial chaos monkey was brutally slain. I confronted the senior disciple, who vowed to deliver justice for my loss. All evidence eventually pointed to junior disciple Chu Hongyuan. The senior brother's expression darkened. Shinqing. It's just a monkey, isn't it? What's done is done. Don't let this ruin the harmony among fellow disciples. Unconvinced, I insisted on seeking justice from our master. Who would have thought my junior sister would ambush me halfway? Elder sister, if you hadn't insisted on taking my spot in the immortal sect trials, how could I bear to harm you? She wiped away the non-existent tears at the corner of her eyes. Someone as foolish as you doesn't deserve to remain in our sect. I died with vengeance in my heart. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back at the sect's spirit beast selection ceremony. As my junior sister approached, I instinctively hid the spirit beast egg behind my back. In this life, I'll make you experience the agony of losing your spirit beasts. As we stepped out of the spirit beast pavilion, varied expressions played across the disciples' faces. The immortal sect trials will soon commence, granting victorious disciples entry into the inner sect. It's the sacred training ground every sect disciple dreams of attaining. Cradling the spirit beast egg, I felt waves of warmth radiating through my palms. The spirit beast pavilion houses countless beast eggs. What tier of guardian spirit beast one obtains depends entirely on fate. Senior sister, called little junior sister Chu Hongyuan, bouncing toward me. Memories of her ferocious appearance in our past life flashed through my mind, and I instinctively hid the spirit beast egg behind my back. Senior sister, what spirit beast did you get? From my past life memories, Chu Hongyuan's spirit beast was a blood flame phoenix. Though its rank was rather mediocre, there weren't many female disciples in our sect, and Chu Hongyuan had always been competitive with me since childhood. Pity her cultivation talent was merely average. She perpetually trailed behind me. This was likely one of the reasons she eventually turned against me. Chu Hongyuan's skills barely meet the threshold for intersect selection. If I lose my trial qualification, her chances of entering the intersect would increase significantly. After a moment's thought, I said, my spirit beast is a six-tailed deer. The six-tailed deer was the spirit beast of senior brother Su Yunshin in my past life, since he protected Chu Hongyuan and harmed me in our previous life. Don't blame me for dragging him into this mess in this lifetime. The junior sister put on an innocent look. Is the six-tailed deer a high-tier spirit beast? I said proudly. Absolutely. The six-tailed deer is a top-tier support-type spirit beast that grants immense buffs to its owner. I boasted deliberately in front of her. With the six-tailed deer, I'm guaranteed to ace the upcoming immortal sect trials. Junior sister congratulated me with a smile, though a barely perceptible shadow flickered across her face. Seems she's up to no good again. Just like in our past life, perfect. I'd love nothing more than to stir up some real trouble. All spirit beast eggs obtained by disciples are uniformly sent to the sect's designated hatchery for cultivation. In my past life, my primordial monkey was snatched away by Chu Hongyuan the moment it hatched, only to meet a cruel end. Determined not to repeat history, I arrived early at the hatchery this time. True to its mischievous nature, the primordial monkey hatched first again, just like before. Squeak, the energetic little monkey scrambled all over me, full of vitality. I soothed it. In this lifetime, I'll protect you with everything I have. As I smuggled the primordial monkey out of the hatchery, I spotted my junior sister rushing over in a panic from afar. This time, target the senior brother's spirit beast instead. After settling my own spirit beast, I immediately headed for the senior brother's residence. Senior brother, I called out to Su Yunshin. The sect trials are approaching, and I'd like your guidance on cultivation techniques. Su Yunshin had always been arrogant, convinced no fellow disciple could match him. Hearing my request for advice, he immediately launched into a pompous lecture. The six-tailed deer should be hatching any moment now, but awaiting it wasn't its master Su Yunshin, it was the ruthless Chu Hongyuan. Su Yunshin reveled in his lecturing superiority, droning on from noon till nightfall. After all, I'm the only one who knows the exact hatching time of the six-tailed deer. Seeing it was about time, I finally took my leave. Su Yunshin even put on the sanctimonious act of lecturing me. Shinqing, while diligent cultivation is commendable, don't let your competitive zeal damage relationships with your fellow disciples. Just do your best in the upcoming sect trials, whether you make it into the inner sect or not. That's all a matter of fate. He's full of smooth talk and empty promises. We'll see if you can keep that carefree attitude when your six-tailed stag dies. By dawn the next day, news of the senior disciple's missing guardian spirit beast had spread among the sect members. When I arrived at the hatchery, Su Yunshin had already lost that composed, superior air he had yesterday. He grabbed the gatekeeper disciple by the collar, veins bulging on his hands. Tell me where my spirit beast is right now. How could a perfectly fine spirit beast just vanish into thin air? The gatekeeper wore a pained expression. Everyone knew the senior brother held grudges, and crossing him never ended well. Elder brother, last night was the peak hatching period for spirit beast eggs. With so many creatures emerging at once, it was impossible for me to keep track of them all. Besides, the gatekeeper disciple argued convincingly, many spirit beasts can find their own masters after hatching. The Grandmaster himself decreed we have no obligation to babysit them for their future owners. Suyunshin released the other's collar in fury. He'd scoured the entire hatchery, now certain his six-tailed stag spirit beast wasn't among the newborns. If it's already hatched and left, why hasn't the six-tailed deer found its way back after all this time? The more Suyunshin thought about it, the more concerned he became. A crowd of disciples had gathered at the hatchery entrance by now, including no small number of those taking malicious pleasure in the situation. The senior brother's overwhelming sense of superiority among his peers had earned him quite a few enemies. I spotted Chu Hongyuan in the crowd, her face a picture of utter disbelief. The junior disciple could never have imagined that the six-tailed deer she'd slain was actually the senior brother's guardian spirit beast. I secretly rejoiced, though I kept my composure. Just then, someone suggested, why don't we search the entire sect? Even if the six-tailed deer has fled, it couldn't have gone far. Outwardly, everyone still had to help the senior brother, so they immediately scattered to search for traces of the spirit beast. Just as I was about to set off, the junior sister called out to me from behind. Her face was full of resentment, her eyes practically shooting flames. The six-tailed deer is clearly the senior brother's guardian spirit beast. How dare you claim it as your own? I scratched my head awkwardly. Oops, when choosing the spirit beast, the senior brother was right beside me and I got confused. My excuse was flimsy at best, but the junior sister couldn't refute it either. Her expression was complex. Beyond the resentment toward me, there was a trace of concern. Given the senior brother's methods, if he finds out Chu Hongyuan was behind this, the retaliation would be absolutely brutal. Before long, someone discovered a six-tailed deer halfway up the mountainside. To be precise, it was the corpse of a six-tailed deer. This prime-grade spirit beast, once a magnificent support creature, had been mutilated beyond recognition, a testament to the perpetrator's brutality. Even its signature six tails had been severed clean off, vanishing without a trace. The senior brother took one look at the scene and was so enraged he coughed up blood before collapsing unconscious. The junior sister stared at the six-tailed deer's corpse with utter disbelief. No, this can't be. This isn't how it was supposed to. Of course it wasn't. If I hadn't cleaned up the mess, our senior brother would have settled scores with her long ago. Despite her scheming nature, Chu Hongyuan was simply too dim-witted for her own good. Just like when she killed my primordial chaos monkey in our past life, the carcass was littered with traces of her spiritual energy, leading me straight to her. But being the youngest disciple has its perks. She's always had an entourage ready to back her up. In the end, I'm still the one who suffers. This time, I can't let senior brother clash with junior sister so quickly. The real show is just beginning. In my past life when my primordial chaos monkey died tragically, Suyunshin, as the head disciple, immediately put on a show of righteous indignation. Don't worry, Shinqing, I'll definitely make the bastard who killed your spirit beast pay, no matter who the killer is. I'll see that justice is served. How noble those words sound, but when I presented evidence that Chu Hongyuan was the killer, the senior brother immediately changed his tune. Just because the spirit beast's corpse bears Hongyuan's spiritual energy traces doesn't necessarily prove her guilt, does it? I'm laughing. Isn't this proof enough? Must the sect witness Chu Hongyuan strike me with their own eyes before delivering justice? Shinqing, be the bigger person. Sit out this immortal sect trial for now. It's just a little monkey, isn't it? What's done is done. Don't let this come between our brotherhood. Keep working hard. There'll be plenty more opportunities ahead. I told my senior brother that my spirit beast was a primordial monkey, a rare and exceptional breed among all spirit creatures. My senior brother frowned and told me to stop making a scene. With the monkey dead, I could spin any tale I wanted. With his spirit beast now dead, senior brother seemed to have lost his very soul. The six-tailed deer's corpse yielded no clues, but the head disciple refused to accept it. He vowed to hunt down the killer no matter what. Days turned into weeks with no progress in solving the six-tailed deer's death. Without a guardian spirit beast, the chances of passing the immortal sect trials were virtually non-existent. The eldest senior brother ranks among the top of his peers in strength. What a shame if he loses his chance to enter the inner sect because of the six-tailed deer's death. What a terrible waste. But frankly, I'd prefer him staying out of the inner sect. Weren't you the one preaching magnanimity? Why do you fall apart when misfortune strikes you? Suyunshin remained resentful, relentlessly pursuing the killer's trail all this time. Junior sister Chu Hongyuan was initially terrified, seeing the senior brother's determination to hunt down the culprit at all costs, but I covered her tracks so thoroughly that Suyunshin remains completely clueless to this day. Chu Hongyuan has grown increasingly arrogant these days, just like in our past life. The absence of either Suyunshin or me significantly boosts her chances of entering the inner sect during the sect gathering. She looked at my primordial monkey with undisguised contempt. Senior Sister Shin, why is your spirit beast just some scrawny monkey? It looks utterly ridiculous. What's the point of this thing anyway? I always deliberately conceal the primordial monkey's aura to avoid catching Chu Hongyuan's attention again, so apart from me, no one truly knows the primordial monkey's actual cultivation rank. Hearing the gossip about itself, the primordial monkey immediately bared its fangs in warning. This spectacle only amused Chu Hongyuan further. After all, in their eyes, the primordial monkey's spiritual power was negligible, no different from an ordinary animal. Well, this little monkey's got quite the temper, the junior sister sneered. Elder sister, why not train it for street performances? Might earn you some coin someday. The fellow disciples could no longer contain themselves, joining Chu Hongyuan in mocking me, calmly stroking the primordial monkey's head. I spoke at a measured pace. What's the use of my little monkey? You'll see during the immortal sect trials. But junior sister, your blood flame phoenix is such a mediocre grade. Better not hold us back during the trials. Chu Hongyuan's brows furrowed as her striking eyes glared daggers at me. The blood flame phoenix's low rank had always been a sore point for Chu Hongyuan. Seeing most of her fellow disciples had arrived, she deliberately raised her voice. Brother Su's six-tailed deer died a tragic death, yet the killer remains at large. Frankly speaking, those with weaker guardian beasts actually have stronger motives. Senior sister, don't you agree? Every pair of eyes in the room instantly snapped toward me. The primordial chaos monkey was now universally regarded as the lowest tier spirit beast. Seizing the momentum, Chu Hongyuan pressed on. I know you've been training relentlessly. Senior sister, all for that intersect qualification. Now you've just had rotten luck, ended up with this useless monkey. Honestly, that kind of disparity is just begging for jealousy and poor decisions. She suddenly seemed to remember something, covering her mouth in shock. Now I remember, I once asked Senior Sister Shin about her guardian spirit beast. She told me it was a six-tailed deer. The moment these words were spoken, hushed whispers immediately spread through the crowd. Chu Hongyuan pointed at me and said, could it be that Senior Sister Shin was already jealous of Brother Su obtaining that supreme grade spirit beast? I'd underestimated my junior sister. She actually framed me without batting an eye. The fellow disciples immediately erupted in uproar, with some even suggesting Senior Brother Su conduct a special investigation on me. I sneered, investigate me if you must, but I can't guarantee what you'll find. As I spoke, I cast a meaningful glance at our junior sister. The moment our master arrived, the entire group fell silent, watching the blood flame bird perched on my junior sister's shoulder. I thought it was time she learned how it felt to lose a guardian spirit beast. One morning several days later, commotion erupted outside my door at dawn. Senior, when I stepped out to investigate, I discovered my junior sister's blood flame bird had vanished. The junior sister was the most popular disciple in our sect. All the younger brothers orbited around her like satellites. With our junior sister's guardian spirit beast missing, everyone's naturally eager to show off in front of her. The whole sect was in complete chaos. While I just yawned and headed back to my room for more beauty sleep, Senior Sister Shin, Chu Hongyuan stormed over furiously demanding, my crimson flame bird is missing. What's going on? I looked utterly baffled. Junior Sister Chu, why come to me about your missing guardian spirit beast? Are you seriously suggesting I did this? Nonsense. Chu Hongyuan barely restrained herself from hitting me. It was definitely you. I merely questioned you a bit at the gathering the other day. Who knew you'd hold a grudge over it? If you don't believe me, go ahead and investigate. Once you have proof, I'll submit to your judgment. I drew my sword an inch from its scabbard. But spread baseless rumors about me again, and don't blame me for forgetting our sect brotherhood. She saw the unmistakable murderous intent in my eyes and wisely shut her mouth. Just then, Senior Brother Su arrived on the scene. Chu Hongyuan's eyes immediately lit up with hope. Senior brother, my blood flame phoenix has gone missing. The senior disciple, who had been despondent since his six-tailed deer's tragic death, immediately furrowed his brows upon hearing this. Chu Hongyuan pointed at me accusingly. I suspect Senior Sister Shin harmed my guardian spirit beast. Her own spirit beast is of inferior rank, so she grew envious of me. Her voice broke into sobs as she continued. Who knew our senior sister could be so cruel, trying to sabotage my eligibility for the Immortal Sect trials? The mention of the Immortal Sect trials made the senior brother's expression darken further. The junior sister immediately piled on, Brother Su, I've always suspected Senior Sister Shin was behind the six-tailed deer's death too. The senior brother's face grew stormier. What makes you say that? The junior sister explained. Think about it, brother, who stands to gain the most from you and me missing the Immortal Sect trials? Among our cohort of fellow disciples, Su Yunshin and I stood out as the top performers, with Chu Hongyuan trailing slightly behind. If those two were to lose their chance at the Immortal Sect trials, My odds of securing an intersect position would significantly improve. The moment these words were spoken, the crowd erupted in uproar. I laughed, especially the junior disciples gathered around her. They were the first to step forward and denounce me. Clearly Senior Sister Shin's own spirit beast was too low grade, so she grew jealous of Senior Sister Chu and Brother Su. Exactly, to win the sect trials, Senior Sister Shin would stoop to any means necessary. No wonder the killer behind Brother Su's six-tailed deer's death remains undiscovered to this day. With Senior Sister Shin's skills, she could indeed pull it off without leaving a trace. I chuckled. That much was true. If not for my cleanup, the killer of the six-tailed deer would have been exposed long ago. I glared at Chu Hongyuan, that scheming woman, still trying to frame me even now. No matter, your reckoning is coming. I was about to defend myself when a junior disciple's shout echoed in the distance. Everyone, come quick, I've found traces of the blood flame phoenix. The youngest disciple immediately led the others to follow. Su Yunshin glared at me fiercely. Shinqing, you're coming too. I nodded with a smile. Of course, little did he know, I deliberately left those trails of the blood flame phoenixes. A group of immortal sect disciples arrived at a deep valley beneath the mountain, where scattered among the boulders lay numerous feathers of the blood flame phoenix. Many feathers still bore traces of bloodstains. Chu Hongyuan froze momentarily before glaring at me viciously. Senior Sister Shin, I won't let you off today. My Frostmourne sword slid from its sheath. How dare you speak to your elder like this? One more word and I'll cut out your tongue. The crowd gasped in shock. No one expected such harsh words from someone known for her gentle nature, having been reborn. I'm done playing the meat pushover this time around. Su Yunshin stood before us with a face like thunder. Enough of this nonsense. We'll settle this when we have proof. Following Su Yunshin's lead, we traced the path of the falling feathers. The further we advanced, the more feathers and bloodstains littered the ground, leading right up to the mouth of a cave. Chu Hongyuan charged in first. A blood-curdling scream instantly escaped her lips, as if she'd seen something that scared the soul right out of her. The other disciples rushed in immediately, while Su Yunshin, fearing I might flee, forced me forward at sword point. Upon closer inspection, 6 tails lay in the cave, each impaled with several crimson spikes. Chu Hongyuan stood petrified nearby, her face deathly pale as her body trembled uncontrollably. How could this happen? Those 6 tails unmistakably belonged to the 6-tailed deer, the senior disciple's guardian spirit beast. The crimson spike above was none other than the blazing ember nail, the signature weapon of junior disciple Chu Hongyuan. Su Yunshin saw it clearly, his face equally stunned with disbelief. Meanwhile, the other sect members whispered among themselves, we followed the blood flame bird's trail in here, so why is there a 6-tailed deer's tail displayed? And this damning evidence clearly links Chu Hongyuan to the deer's death. Chu Hongyuan abandoned all decorum, shrieking, how did this get here? Indeed, she'd never set foot here when she killed the 6-tailed deer. Junior sister had planned to pin the murder of the 6-tailed deer on me by exploiting the blood flame bird's disappearance. What a pity, having lived a second life. Did she really think I wouldn't anticipate such tricks? Su Yunshin had examined those tails. The crimson flame nails and junior sister's lingering spiritual energy were unmistakable evidence. In a flash, he materialized before Chu Hongyuan, his murderous intent so palpable the air itself seemed to freeze. Chu Hongyuan, what the hell is going on? The junior sister completely panicked, immediately putting on a pitiful act. Eldest brother, you've got to believe me. How could I possibly do such a thing? Someone must be framing me. Exactly, the junior sister shrieked, pointing at me watching nearby. It must be Senior Sister Shin. She killed your 6-tailed deer and pinned it on me, so she could. Enough. Su Yunshin cut her off harshly. I sneered from the sidelines. Feel free to examine the wounds on these 6 tails, senior brother. See if they weren't made by Lihua spikes. If someone's trying to frame our junior sister, you'd definitely spot it. Senior brother, I wasn't wrong about this. Our head disciple might be arrogant, but he's no empty-headed pretty boy. Even our junior sister understands this much. That's a lie, Chu Hongyuan snapped at me. You're the one who did it. This was all you're doing. You're trying to frame me and reap the rewards. Shinqing, oh Shinqing, you're utterly ruthless. The entire room fell into silence. Had this happened before, everyone would have taken my junior sister's side and blamed me. With such irrefutable evidence, what's left to argue? Someone even jeered. I bet Chu Hongyuan fabricated the whole blood flame phoenix disappearance too. Just another scheme to frame Senior Sister Shin. Exactly, Chu Hongyuan. How does it feel to cry thief while being one yourself? Justice for Senior Sister Shin. Senior Sister Shin has always been so kind to us. What exactly are you scheming? Chu Hongyuan. I gave a bitter smile. These junior brothers were experts at switching sides. The moment they saw Chu Hongyuan's downfall coming, they immediately turned against her. Not that I minded, though. As Chu Hongyuan hurled insults at me, Su Yunshin finally had enough and grabbed her by the shoulders. The senior brother channeled spiritual energy into his grip, making the junior sister wail in agony. Senior brother, stop this. There must be some misunderstanding. But Su Yunshin refused to relent. These past days of lost sleep and appetite had one purpose: to unmask the murderer of his guardian spirit beast. Never would he have imagined the murderer was actually his junior sister. After all the trust he'd placed in her, Su Yunshin's grip tightened with rising fury, distorting Chu Hongyuan's delicate shoulders visibly under the crushing force. Su Yunshin, his junior sister shrieked in pain. Stop this instant, harm me today, and our master will make you pay. Seizing the opportune moment, I stepped forward with feigned concern and advised, Senior brother, though junior sister Chu has gone too far, perhaps we should leave this matter for our master to decide. Su Yunshin's gaze toward me no longer held hostility, his face a mixture of anger and hesitation. Junior sister Shin, if I don't discipline her now, I fear. Everyone knew our master had always shown favoritism toward the youngest disciple. Big brother wants revenge, and this is his only chance. Seeing the hesitation in his eyes, I pressed on. The spirit beast can be replaced, but breaking sect rules and fighting fellow disciples, the Grandmaster won't show mercy. Senior brother, where there's life, there's hope. I paused before adding, besides, with such clear evidence, how could the Grandmaster openly favor little junior sister now? If you ask me, Master values you just as much as our junior sister. Only after hearing this did Su Yunshin's furious expression soften slightly. Fine, then I'll let Master be the judge of this. He released his grip on the junior sister's shoulder, shooting her a venomous glare. Haha, I'll make sure you understand exactly why you're doomed. The master sat on the throne in the grand hall, listening to the eldest disciple and youngest sister argue fiercely. Meanwhile, the rest of us fellow disciples stood by, thoroughly enjoying the spectacle with schadenfreude. Back when I was wronged, the eldest brother preached magnanimity. Now that the shoe's on the other foot, where's his noble forgiveness? Truly, some lessons about life's pains can only be learned through personal suffering. After their prolonged argument, the master frowned impatiently. Enough. How much longer will you two keep making fools of yourselves? The senior disciple remained kneeling, his face contorted with rage. Master, the evidence is irrefutable. It's all junior sister's doing. Enough. The master waved his hand to cut him off. We couldn't even find Yuaner's guardian spirit beast. How could she possibly have set this trap for herself? So tell me, who among those present is the mastermind behind the Blood Flame Phoenix's disappearance? The master's clouded eyes swept across the grand hall, lingering on me alone. A chill ran down my spine, though my expression remained composed. When the master finally averted his gaze, I secretly breathed a sigh of relief. The senior brother pressed on relentlessly. The disappearance of the Blood Flame Phoenix and the slaughter of the six-tailed deer are completely unrelated matters. They are related. Chu Hongyuan suddenly spoke up, breaking her long silence. Eldest brother, it was you who took my guardian spirit beast. The crowd immediately erupted in murmurs. Su Yunshin's expression shifted from shock to a cold sneer. Junior sister Chu, I say you killed the six-tailed deer. The evidence is irrefutable. You claim I took your Blood Flame Phoenix. Where's your proof? Chu Hongyuan pointed coldly at Su Yunshin's robe. A blood flame phoenix feather protruded from his hem, while suspicious crimson stains, likely the bird's blood, marked his sleeve. This, Su Yunshin's eyes widened before he wheeled on his junior sister, bellowing, You framed me. I saw everything crystal clear, during the brief moment when Su Yunshin was escorting the junior sister to see the master. She had already smeared bloodstains on the senior brother's robe while secretly attaching feathers to its hem. The junior sister declared loudly, when our group was searching for the Blood Flame Phoenix, the senior brother never once touched the feathers on the ground. So where did all this blood and feathers come from? I bet our senior brother is the thief crying stop thief. Those scattered feathers were his doing. He just slipped up and didn't clean them all, the junior sister continued. As for why he'd play this trick, he's trying to pin the six-tailed deer's death on me. That's right, our senior brother killed the six-tailed deer himself. The senior disciple killed his own spirit beast. The crowd erupted in chaos, everyone letting their imaginations run wild to guess why he'd do such a thing. I was speechless. Junior sister's slandering skills were truly impressive. If not for my rebirth, I'd probably still be falling for her schemes. The senior disciple protested vehemently. Master, you must see reason. How could I possibly do such a thing? Moreover, on the day the six-tailed deer hatched, I was discussing cultivation techniques with Xinqing the entire time. Xinqing can vouch for this. All eyes instantly turned toward me. Who would have thought this matter would come full circle and actually involve me? I was just figuring out how to broach the subject when I heard our master sigh. Yuan. Your fellow disciples, why must you push each other to such extremes? Now that you both stick to your own stories, how should your master proceed? Shall I cast you out of the sect, or perhaps strip you of your martial arts and make you sweep the courtyard? The master gave them a meaningful glance. Let this matter rest. You two shall still have the chance to participate in the immortal sect trials. Chu Hongyuan fell silent, her lowered face twisted with venomous resentment. The whole affair was so convoluted that even a dimwit could tell I was involved, so she tacitly accepted our master's decision, no doubt plotting revenge against me afterward. She'll make sure I'm barred from the immortal sect trials too. At that moment, senior disciple Suyunshin roared, "No way, I swear I didn't kill the blood flame phoenix, I never even laid a finger on that thing, master." The senior disciple kowtowed frantically, his forehead pounding against the floor. "I swear I never touched junior sister's blood flame phoenix, but she truly did slay my guardian spirit beast. How can we let this matter rest? I refuse to accept this." This was the first time I'd ever seen the senior disciple defy our master so boldly. No wonder he's upset. Being barred from the immortal sect trials was bad enough, but now he's being forced to shoulder blame that wasn't even his to begin with. The senior disciple naturally refused, watching the master's barely contained anger. I couldn't help but sigh. The senior disciple's always been too self-absorbed. Years of arrogance have left him utterly incapable of reading the master's intentions. Can't the master see he's being framed by junior sister? But with all disciples present, the master won't pursue this further. As his student, you mustn't press him. Embarrassing the master would have dire consequences, just as expected. The master suddenly stood up, his brows knitted tightly. "Suyunshin, you shall reflect upon your actions in the forbidden grounds beneath Mount Su's cliffs. Let's make it 6 months. Return after half a year. If you still wish to debate this matter, your master shall grant you fair judgment." The disciples erupted in murmurs once more. Some marveled at their master's iron discipline, while others who'd long disapproved of the senior brother's conduct began quietly applauding. The senior disciple glared viciously at his junior sister as he was dragged away. "Chu Hongyuan, mark my words, when I get out, you'll pay for this, outrageous, drag him away at once." The master waved his hand impatiently. The junior sister, still kneeling on the spot, finally let out a sigh of relief. Word came within days that the master had specially granted junior sister exclusive access to the Spirit Beast Pavilion. She would get to reselect her Spirit Beast and still make it for the upcoming Immortal Sect trials. I clicked my tongue. That junior sister certainly knew how to work the system, always getting special privileges from the master. This reminded me of how the master had looked at me back in the main hall that day. That stern-faced old man isn't as simple as he appears, but my plan must proceed. Only by eliminating the senior disciple and junior sister will my hatred be satisfied. Before that, I must first visit the senior disciple who's reflecting in the forbidden area. The junior sister entered the Spirit Beast Pavilion alone and didn't emerge for a long time. I'd been waiting by the entrance since dawn, and seeing junior sister Chu's barely contained grin, I rushed to congratulate her first. "Junior sister Chu, seems you've picked quite the Spirit Beast this time." With a mysterious smile, she patted the Spirit Beast egg in her arms. "This time, I've finally gotten my hands on a supreme-grade Spirit Beast." Senior sister Shin, wariness flashed in her eyes. "You came all this way just to congratulate me. What happened?" With utmost sincerity, I said, "Absolutely. There were some misunderstandings between us before, but that's all water under the bridge now. With formidable enemies at our doorstep, we must." Chu Hongyuan immediately furrowed her brows. "What formidable enemies? I've just acquired a supreme spirit beast. What enemies could possibly threaten me now?" With a conspiratorial air, I leaned in and whispered in her ear, "Just moments ago, the sect master lifted the punishment on our senior brother. He'll be returning to the sect first thing tomorrow morning." The junior sister was so startled she nearly dropped the spirit beast egg in her hands. How could this be? She recalled Suyunshin's threat in the Grand Hall. That was no empty threat. If Suyunshin returns, she'll face certain retaliation. When our senior brother returns to regain his strength and reclaim his weapon, guess who'll be first on his revenge list? I shot her a glance. Impossible. The junior sister still refused to believe it. I sighed and said, "Junior sister Chu, I know our master favors you greatly, but consider this, the senior disciple is still the senior disciple. The master has always held him in high regard. Do you really think our master would confine him to the forbidden grounds for half a year just for speaking out of turn, now that our master's anger has subsided? Wouldn't it be only natural to recall the senior disciple? If you don't believe me, go ask the Grandmaster yourself." The junior sister immediately panicked. "Even if we rush to the forbidden grounds at the mountain's base now, we'd barely make it in time for the senior brother's punishment to be lifted. But if we take the time to consult the Grandmaster for clarification, the senior brother will likely have already returned to the sect by then. Then it'll be junior sister who's caught off guard." Seeing her hesitation, I quietly prepared myself. If she really doesn't trust me and goes to verify with our master, I'll ambush her along the way, just like what she did to me in our past life. After much deliberation, my junior sister merely thanked me before hastily departing. I quickly followed, only to see her rallying a pack of her most devoted simps, charging straight toward the forbidden grounds at the mountain's base. I immediately pursued them. There, lying in ambush with prior intel from me, was our senior brother. The junior sister arrived at the Forbidden Grounds with her followers, only to be ambushed by the senior brother, but the senior brother, weakened from days of punishment and unarmed, was at a clear disadvantage. Outnumbered by his fellow disciples, he could barely hold his ground. With no turning back now, both sides soon fought with bloodshot eyes, determined to end this in death. In the end, the senior disciple was overwhelmed and slain, while the junior sister barely clung to life as the sole survivor. Leaning wounded against the cliff, she spat at her senior brother's corpse. Suyunchin, this is what happens when you cross me, death is your only reward, clapping in mock applause. I made my grand entrance with the primordial chaos monkey in tow, senior sister Shin. Chu Hongyuan shrieked, how did you track us here? I laughed, for revenge, of course, but it's vengeance from our past lives. The primordial monkey obeyed my command, lunging forward and effortlessly piercing my junior sister's chest. I said coldly, you slaughtered my spirit beast in our previous life, now this blood debt shall be repaid. Chu Hongyuan gazed at me with bitter resentment, letting the blood gush freely from her chest. What do you mean, previous life? You wouldn't understand, I explained, all you need to do is die. After my junior sister's death, I methodically erased all traces as usual. After days of investigation, the master finally shook his head and declared the tragedy resulted from personal grudges between the senior disciple and junior sister. Later, I successfully participated in the sect trials and, thanks to my seamless coordination with the primordial chaos monkey, ultimately earned the qualification to cultivate in the inner sect. Only then did my fellow disciples realize my spirit beast was actually this formidable, far from the useless creature our junior sister had claimed. Those who once mocked me alongside Chu Hongyuan now trembled in fear of my retaliation. I don't have time for them. Before entering the inner sect, the master specifically summoned me. Shinqing, you'll now receive guidance from the inner sect masters. I have high hopes for you. Then he gazed at my spirit beast, the primordial chaos monkey, and said, this is a supreme-grade spirit beast, nurture it well, and it shall achieve greatness in time. My master leaned in mysteriously, whispering words only the two of us could hear, but you must never let it attack its fellow disciples again. My eyes widened in shock as I stared speechlessly at my master. The master smiled faintly, Shinqing, you've done well. Suyunchin and Chu Hongyuan pale in comparison to your methods. Such people are useless to our sect. Entering the inner sect will be a different kind of battle. You're the only one worthy. It took me a long moment to find my voice. Master, so you knew everything all along. The master chuckled. I've been through the same thing myself. I suggest you put this matter behind you. Head to the inner sect. Greater challenges await you there. Story 2, Reborn 1 month before the apocalypse. In my previous life, because I loved hoarding supplies, I was fortunate enough to survive a week when the scorching apocalypse arrived, relying on the stockpile at home. Little did I expect my ex-husband to remember my hoarding habit. He risked his life to come to my house with his lover and stole all my supplies. They even drove me out of the house, leaving me to die under the scorching sun. Given a second chance at life, I vowed to protect everything that matters, but to my surprise, my ex-husband and his lover were also reborn. Temperatures are gradually rising in many areas today. Citizens are advised to minimize outdoor activities and ensure their safety. The sound of the news anchor came from the television. My hand pouring water paused as I realized I had truly been reborn, and I was reborn just 1 week before the outbreak of the high-temperature apocalypse. In my previous life, because I loved hoarding supplies, I was fortunate enough to survive when the government announced the high-temperature crisis news. But it wasn't long before my ex-husband Griffin remembered my habit of hoarding supplies, so he and his childhood sweetheart risked death by heatstroke to find me, occupied my house, and seized all the food I had stockpiled. They even thought one more person meant one more mouth to feed, and heartlessly drove me out of the house. The moment I stepped outside, a wave of scorching heat engulfed me. My strong will to survive kept me banging on the door for help. The people inside remained indifferent, and I ultimately died of heatstroke outside. When I opened my eyes again, I never expected to be reborn. In this life, I'll enjoy air conditioning and hot pot while watching this despicable couple melt in the heat. I look at the house. This isn't a very good safe house for the apocalypse. It suddenly occurs to me that my parents left me a villa. The location is quite remote, so I never lived there. I think that villa has a 120 square meter basement. With this in mind, I grab the car keys and immediately drive to the villa area. It's currently afternoon, with the sun hanging high in the sky as if trying to scorch all living things on earth. Driving to the villa area left to me by my parents. There aren't many residents here. The houses are also quite far apart. Looking at this location, it seems perfect for surviving the apocalypse. I hired a cleaning company, paying them triple the usual rate to thoroughly clean this basement for me. Seeing how generous I was with money, the housekeeping company sent someone over without hesitation. As for me, I went to the supermarket to start buying food. Although there was already plenty of stockpiled goods at home, it still couldn't give me enough sense of security. At the supermarket, I bought snacks, self-heating hot pots, self-heating rice, over a dozen boxes of instant noodles, some fruits and vegetables that could be stored fresh for a long time, and dozens of bags of frozen dumplings and buns. Drinking water is also essential, so I bought over 10 cases at once. I plan to go to the wholesale market tomorrow to buy frozen meat in bulk, which should be cheaper. After shopping at the supermarket, I went to the pharmacy and bought all kinds of medicines, cold medicine, anti-inflammatory drugs, wound treatments, and more, to prepare for emergencies. The high-temperature apocalypse was supposed to last 3 months. But I only survived half a month before being killed by Griffin and his group, so I can't guarantee the apocalypse will definitely end after 3 months, so it's always good to have some extra prepared. After buying medicine, I also purchased various self-defense weapons like pepper spray, stun guns, and hammers. The supermarket noticed I was buying a lot of items and offered to provide home delivery service. After filling out the address, I went to purchase other supplies. Went to the source factory of freezers and bought several large freezers. After filling in the address, I drove back to the villa. The housekeeping company had already cleaned the basement spotlessly. I moved all the supplies I bought to the basement, as it was nighttime and the weather was scorching hot. Therefore, no one was walking around inside the villa area at all, so the process of moving supplies went smoothly for me, and after several trips, I finally finished moving everything. The basement stays cool year-round because it doesn't get any sunlight. Even in such hot weather outside, you can't feel the heat in the basement. After putting the food I bought into the fridge, I went upstairs again to bring down all the food I had stockpiled at home. It took me more than 10 trips back and forth to finish moving everything. Glancing at the time again, it was already evening. After some thought, I drove to the appliance store and bought a central air conditioning system to install in the basement. I bought several more solar panels and arranged with the seller for delivery tomorrow before heading home. I moved all the food at home down to the basement, and seeing the fully stocked supplies finally gave me some peace of mind. On my way home, I saw a physical store selling surveillance cameras, and after some thought, I decided to buy 2, one for the villa and one for my current residence. I haven't forgotten to make that despicable couple pay the price. After returning home and taking a comfortable shower, I fell asleep immediately. I was exhausted today and slept very soundly. The next day, I was awakened by a call from the solar panel installation company owner, and I just told him to proceed with the installation. After hanging up the phone, I went back to sleep for a while before getting up to wash up. Today I need to buy frozen meat, a baking tray, and also move some furniture into the basement. After all, I'll be staying there for 3 months. Went to the wholesale market and bought dozens of pounds of fresh pork, beef, and lamb, along with fatty beef rolls, hot pot balls, sausages, and other food items I could think of. Went to the beverage wholesale market again and purchased 50 cases of drinks. I also bought 50 cases of ice cream, with all kinds of flavors available. Only after I had stored all the purchased food in the freezer did I finally breathe a sigh of relief. After checking whether the solar panels were functional, I collapsed exhausted onto the furniture I had bought. It took me quite a while to arrange all the furniture, and by then I was drenched in sweat. Fortunately, I anticipated sweating a lot today and brought a set of clean clothes in advance. After taking a nice shower in the basement, I got back to work. I'm now installing the cameras I bought last night in the corners of the villa. I can detect anyone approaching the villa immediately. Thinking of Griffin and Estelle, I returned to my home in the city center once more. Unexpectedly, I saw Griffin and Estelle there. They were sitting motionless at my doorstep. I didn't know why they suddenly came, but my intuition told me this wasn't a good thing. "What are you here for?" Griffin stood up and peered intently behind me, as if checking whether I'd brought anything back. "Griffin, are you going blind or what? What are you staring at?" I really couldn't muster any pleasant expression for my ex-husband. In my previous life, I only realized he was a mama's boy after marrying him. His mother came to the city for treatment after breaking her leg in our past life, and he made me quit my job to take care of her full-time. I could take care of Mom after work too. Why did I have to quit? Griffin immediately got upset and started yelling at me. "She's my mother, as her daughter-in-law. You should take care of her when she's broken her leg. What's wrong with asking you to quit your job? Who could your measly salary even support?" 2. My salary is significantly higher than Griffin's, not just by a small margin. Griffin had always felt emasculated by the fact that I earned more than him, which is why he refused to spend money on anything, all household expenses. Daily necessities, even his mother's hospital bills were covered by me. Before I could respond, Griffin flew into a rage, accusing me of having an affair or seducing my boss, questioning how else I could have become the general manager. At that time, I had a huge argument with him, but in the end, I was the one who compromised and took a step back. "Where are you going so late?" I frowned, unwilling to speak to him. The moment I opened the door with my key, Griffin and Estelle exchanged a glance. They squeezed into my house. "What are you doing? Don't make me call the police." Griffin didn't care at all, sitting on my sofa with his legs crossed. "Go ahead and report it. The apocalypse is coming anyway. Do you really think the police will still care about these things?" Hearing Griffin's words, I immediately realized he had also been reborn, but heaven has eyes. It just let me be reborn a few days earlier than him. Estelle yanked Griffin hard, as if she had been reborn too. I feigned surprise and said, "Griffin, what are you talking about? The apocalypse? Have you been reading too many novels?" Griffin also realized he had let slip too much and refused to say anything more. "Where's the food? Hurry up and give it to me." He and Estelle sat on the sofa as if they were the masters of this house. "We're out of food." "Impossible." Estelle's shrill voice nearly pierced my eardrums. "But you stored so much in our previous life." Griffin clamped his hand over Estelle's mouth, his fierce glare making her shrink back. I continued pretending not to know what was happening. "What on earth are you talking about? I don't understand." Griffin ignored my question and kept urging me to quickly bring out the food. Fortunately, I had left some supplies in the house when I was moving the materials earlier. I took out a bundle of noodles. I finished my stockpile a few days ago, and I've been too busy with company matters to restock these past few days. Griffin clearly didn't believe it. Most companies are opting for remote work now. Why would anyone still need to go to the office? I was shocked that Griffin had become smarter in the second life, but I quickly snapped out of it. "Do you think my company is like those small businesses of yours? Mine is a Fortune 500 company." My sarcastic tone indeed made Griffin let his guard down, but it also pissed him off. Ever since I found out that both he and Estelle had been reborn, I started pretending to be the same as before, to prevent them from discovering that I was also reborn. With just 2 days left before the onset of the high-temperature apocalypse, Griffin and the others began forcing me to go out and buy food for them. In the previous days, they had still been wary of me, so they kept watching me all day long. Even when I go out, they insist on following me, just to check if I'm lying to them. I'm well aware of their little schemes, so I make sure to get up on time and go to the company every day. I wasn't lying to them. My previous company was a Fortune 500 firm where the air conditioning had been running nonstop since the heat wave began. Even in the current 38 degrees Celsius weather, the company still hasn't allowed us to work from home. However, on the first day of my rebirth, I requested a long leave from my boss. It wasn't until they confirmed I hadn't been reborn that they felt relieved enough to stay at my place. Every day they enjoy my air conditioning and eat the food I bought. To make the act convincing, I even called the police to have them evicted, but when the police arrived, they only gave them a warning and some education. Now the police station has received orders from higher-ups to prepare for nationwide martial law, so they don't have much energy to deal with such minor matters. So Griffin and Estelle have once again occupied my house. As the apocalypse drew nearer, they grew somewhat anxious seeing me still not stockpiling supplies. "If you don't go out to buy things now, don't even think about stepping foot in this house again." I picked up the keys and was changing shoes at the entrance when I looked up upon hearing this. "I'll buy some on my way home from work tonight." Just as I was about to close the door, I turned back for one last glance at the two of them cuddling affectionately on the sofa. "Your good days are over. The company already issued the work-from-home notice yesterday. It's just that I need to return to the basement today, so I'm continuing to pretend I'm going to work." I sensed something was wrong as soon as I got in the car. Under the car, I spotted a GPS tracker. Recalling 2 days ago when Griffin and Estelle sneaked out in the middle of the night, turns out they were guarding against me here. After tossing the GPS tracker into the trash, I drove to the villa. There were very few pedestrians along the way, and hardly any vehicles in sight. Everyone was too hot to go outside. After arriving at the villa, I closed the basement door, turned on the AC, and happily collapsed onto the sofa. Not long after, Griffin called. "You didn't go to the office." Breakpoint. It seems he noticed the location tracker hasn't moved. "Oh, the company is sending me on a business trip." "What? When will you be back?" He didn't seem to expect me to go on a business trip, and his tone grew anxious. "Probably in about a week." As I spoke, I forked a piece of watermelon to eat. Griffin heard the sound of me eating and quickly asked what I was having. "Watermelon. Just taken out from the fridge." Griffin and Estelle swallowed hard. Then Griffin continued. "Sienna, I've always liked you. Even after our divorce I still thought of you. I realized I can't live without you. When you come back, let's remarry. I've already kicked Estelle out. When you return, I'll use everything I have to prove to you that I love you." I watched on the surveillance as Estelle gave Griffin's arm a hard pinch. Griffin mouthed the words "it's all fake" to Estelle while cuddling affectionately with her, yet simultaneously professing his love to me. I feel nauseous, but I'm still willing to play along with his act. After all, wouldn't it be better to watch him die in despair? Really, actually, I've always liked you too. On the computer screen, I clearly saw Griffin's I knew it expression. "Sienna, you're leaving for a week and there's no food at home. Give me 10,000 yuan to buy more groceries so we won't need to shop again when you return from your business trip." I pretended to agree with his idea, then poured cold water on his enthusiasm. But I don't have that much liquid cash on hand right now. You know, I'm someone who loves saving. All my money is in fixed deposits that can't be withdrawn before maturity. I refused. Griffin couldn't wait to interrupt me. Then how much do you have right now? 2,000. Griffin's face darkened immediately upon hearing my words. What can 2,000 do? You work for a Fortune 500 company, and you only have 2,000. Aren't you ashamed? Ha! If you're so rich, then buy it yourself. We're divorced, yet you still rely on your ex-wife. Don't you think that's even more shameful? Fine, have it your way. Take these 2,000 or leave it. Just as I was about to hang up, Griffin spoke up. 2,000 it is then. Then I transferred him 100. Griffin called again. Sienna, you blind bitch. I asked for 2,000 and you're giving me a measly 100 like I'm some beggar. I sneered. I need 2,000 too. Consider this 100 as my charity to you. After saying that, I hung up and immediately blocked the number. I made myself a hot pot meal. I took out a bag of meatballs and fatty beef rolls from the freezer, along with plenty of vegetables. I enjoyed a delicious meal while watching a show with the air conditioner on. In my previous life, even though I had the habit of stockpiling, I wouldn't dare to be as extravagant as I am now, after eating hot pot. My belly was round and full. I lay on the sofa scrolling through my phone. Hashtag high temperature apocalypse. Hashtag Earth is about to overheat. Hashtag ground temperature reached 42 degrees Celsius today. These topics are all trending on social media. The high temperature apocalypse has arrived early. The government has announced the arrival of the high temperature apocalypse. Looking at my fully stocked basement, I feel nothing but complete safety. I wanted to check how Griffin and Estelle were doing, only to discover that 2 more people had somehow appeared in my house. They were a pair of twins from next door. I remembered in my previous life, the twins next door were fans of apocalyptic novels. With the recent abnormal weather, they had prepared early to face the apocalypse. At first I thought they were overreacting, but unexpectedly their words came true. On the surveillance footage, the twins shared some of their stockpiled supplies with Griffin and Estelle. I feel sorrow for this pair of twins in my heart. Griffin and Estelle are utterly ruthless. Revealing that our household has surplus supplies in front of them now would be like inviting a wolf into the house, wouldn't it? I mourned silently for the 2 of them for a while. Sure enough, after the twins turned to leave, Griffin grabbed a fruit knife from the table and stabbed one of them. Before the other could react, Estelle smashed a stool over their head. Watching this scene, I felt overwhelming rage inside. Unfortunately, in this apocalyptic world where everyone fends for themselves, there's nothing I can do. All I could do was save this surveillance footage. If that despicable couple Griffin and Estelle survive the apocalypse, I can use this recording to make them pay. The scorching heat has parched the earth. Water resources are severely lacking. Fortunately, I had stockpiled a lot of purified water in the basement earlier. Suddenly, there was movement outside the villa, startling me. I quickly checked the surveillance cameras installed in the corners of the house. The man's face was flushed red, looking as if he was on the verge of dehydration. Scattered food items lay around him. I initially didn't want to get involved in this apocalyptic world where people's hearts are inscrutable. Protecting myself is already challenging enough. Moreover, there's no telling how long this extreme heat will last, so I must ensure my supplies can sustain me until the apocalypse ends. But when my gaze fell upon the man's face, I was shocked. Braving the intense heat, I dragged the man into the basement. After giving him some mineral water, I used a wet towel to cool him down. Before long, the man regained consciousness, seeing that I was the one who saved him. He repeatedly thanked me. After seeing the layout of my basement, he asked me in surprise, "Did you build an apocalypse-safe room?" I smiled and said, "I usually enjoy reading post-apocalyptic novels and watching movies. The recent weather has been too bizarre, so to feel safer, I chose to move into the basement." The man nodded in understanding. I asked, "How could you come out under such scorching sun? There must be a good reason for risking one's life to come out." The man didn't want to elaborate, and I didn't press further, but I could guess. In the previous life when the apocalypse came, I stumbled upon a post online. National SWAT team leader Lachlan died in the line of duty while distributing supplies to civilians. 5. I nodded, then let out a sigh, worriedly saying, "Who knows how long this apocalypse will last? If this continues, the outside world will truly descend into chaos." The man reassuringly patted his chest and assured me, "Don't worry. This apocalypse won't last much longer. The government will never stand idly by. Yeah. We'll definitely get through this." The man gave me quite a lot of supplies, even though I repeatedly tried to decline. "Comrade, take it. Even though you have plenty of supplies now and aren't worried, you still need to ensure your personal safety. People's intentions are hard to predict these days." I didn't refuse his kindness again, but accepted it with a smile. I gave him 2 bottles of mineral water and cooling patches, though the cooling patches might not be of much help. It's better than nothing. The man thanked me repeatedly before turning to leave. Watching him drag the supplies deeper into the villa, I silently prayed for him in my heart, hoping all soldiers who serve the country could survive safely. The apocalypse has been upon us for a week now. During this time, I've occasionally cooked delicious meals, taken photos, and anonymously sent them to Griffin. He and Estelle survived for a week by relying on the supplies from the neighboring twins. I watched in horror as they actually stored the dismembered limbs of those twins in the refrigerator. I nearly couldn't hold back from vomiting up the lunch I had eaten that afternoon. Having experienced an apocalypse once before, they had grown even more ruthless. Griffin looked at the photos I sent, grinding his teeth in anger. After a week of persistent heat, a brief heavy rain finally arrived. Even the remote villas were bustling with noise and excitement. It seemed like they were celebrating the end of this apocalyptic era, but I always felt it wasn't that simple. Sure enough, the day after the heavy rain, temperature soared to nearly 50 degrees Celsius. Many who couldn't afford air conditioning at home died from the extreme heat. Now electricity prices keep rising, reaching 10,000 yuan per kilowatt hour. Homeowner groups are wailing in despair. If this continues, we'll all die from the heat. How can the electricity bill be so expensive? Are they trying to make life impossible for us? My child cries every day from the heat. Adults can tough it out, but how can little children endure this? I read through the messages in the owners group one by one, until I saw a familiar profile picture. Remembering what happened in my previous life, I added her as a friend. She quickly accepted and sent me a smiling emoji. She's the resident living in Unit 1102 above me. Thinking back to my previous life when Griffin and the others heartlessly locked me outside, only she opened her door and let me into her home. But before I could crawl over, I had already died from the heat. Would you like to come to my place? Sneak over quietly. I was just about to reply with a meme too when she sent this message. I couldn't help but wonder if she had also been reborn. 6. Don't worry, I'm not a bad person. It's just that since we're both girls, we can look out for each other. Seemingly worried that I might misunderstand, she quickly followed up with this message. I replied to her saying it's okay. During our conversation, I learned that her name is Vance, and she is an engineering designer. Earlier, for convenience, she had designed an ice house in her home, using solar power to keep it perpetually cold. She invited me to her place again, but I declined, telling her I'm not in the neighborhood right now. Upon learning the news, she was first shocked, then felt relieved. That's good then. After much hesitation, she finally decided to tell me about her reincarnation. Do you think this sounds absurd? No, because I was also reborn, learned everything that happened in the previous life with Vance. 3 months later, when the high-temperature apocalypse ended, as the National Army came to our community for condolences, after they discovered Griffin and Estelle weren't the rightful owners of this house. Vance stepped forward to expose how they had forcibly occupied my home and brutally murdered me. Though the apocalypse has arrived, killing someone by accident for self-protection is completely understandable, but after the apocalypse ends, it's different. Those who kill intentionally or deliberately will face punishment. So after being captured, Griffin and Estelle held a grudge against Vance in this rebirth. I'm worried Griffin and Estelle might harm Vance. Vance dispelled my concerns. Don't worry, on the very first day I was reborn, I already had someone reinforce the windows and doors. Unless they have a cannon, there's no way anyone's getting in. After chatting with Vance for a while, I went to cook. I made braised eggplant, tomato beef brisket, and a seafood platter. With the table fully loaded, I remembered I hadn't checked for any fun today, turned on the computer again. This time Griffin and Estelle were lying on the sofa. The supplies they had looted were almost all eaten. Although those twins shared my habit of hoarding supplies, they had previously given away half of their stock when someone asked in the group chat if anyone had food. After giving some more to Griffin and the others, their food was nearly depleted. I saw Estelle hitting Griffin hard a few times. That bitch must have been reborn too. Look how carefree her life is every day. Griffin also irritably pounded his own head. How was I supposed to know this bitch would stockpile so many supplies right under our noses? Damn woman, don't let me catch her, or I'll make her pay. I watched them while eating my meal. It's a pity they can't smell how delicious my meal is. It's been a month into the high-temperature apocalypse, and many have already succumbed to the heat. I checked the electricity bill I paid earlier. It was nearly depleted. Yet I was puzzled seeing Griffin and Estelle still enjoying air conditioning in the surveillance footage. Soon, I understood how they managed to keep the air conditioning running. Someone complained in the owners group chat about how their electricity bill was already due again right after they just paid it. Thinking of Griffin and the others, I went to find Vance and explained the situation to her. Looks like they've tapped into someone else's power line. Don't worry, I'll handle this. Trying to live comfortably by stealing someone else's electricity is impossible. As expected, Vance acted quickly. Griffin and the others were enjoying the air conditioning when suddenly the power went out. Even though it was evening, no one dared to go outside. The cool air was quickly overtaken by the heat. I saw Griffin and Estelle engaged in a heated argument. Why aren't you going out? Why should I go out? Don't forget, If I hadn't connected to the neighbor's power line, we would have already died from the heat in this house. After all, Griffin is a man, so naturally he's a bit stronger than Estelle, who's a woman. Estelle was pushed to the door by him, and she got scared. The scene of me dying from heat at the doorstep in my previous life made her start begging for mercy. Griffin, I'm scared. What's the use of your fear? You're scared alone, but dragging me to die here with you. Griffin has always been selfish. Otherwise he wouldn't have refused to even find a grave for his mother after her death. In the end, I couldn't bear to see it and pay for his mother's burial plot myself, yet he took it as me slapping him in the face and had a huge fight with me. I finally saw his true colors clearly and divorced him. Estelle kept clinging to the doorway, refusing to go out, feeling the heat wave the moment she touched the entrance. Griffin, you can't do this to me. Amid the argument, the door of the house across from mine opened. Across from me lived an old bachelor named Kerr, who was usually quite lewd in behavior. Several times he had been arrested and jailed for a few days because he tried to harass me, to completely rid him of any thoughts about me. I even had someone beat him up. Only then did he finally behave himself. The moment Kerr laid eyes on Estelle, he narrowed his eyes. What's wrong, buddy? None of your business, Griffin snapped irritably. Estelle could feel the man's gaze lingering on her, though it made her sick to her stomach, but she had just seen that Kerr's house was stocked with plenty of food. Giving up such a pretty girl, huh? Kerr said with a beaming smile. I could sense the creepiness in his words even through the screen. As a man, Griffin naturally noticed it too. He looked at Kerr as if they were discussing cabbages. Want it? Kerr didn't speak, but his eyes never left Estelle for a second. Griffin extended 3 fingers. 3 bags of rice and 3 bags of meat and eggs, Kerr agreed without hesitation. I'm still shocked by Kerr's generosity. 7. Clearly he's unemployed. How could he possibly have so much food? But soon I saw Kerr take out the food Griffin had just mentioned. Griffin regretted it and decided to raise the price again. But Kerr pulled out a gun. Even though Griffin was strong, he was no match for the gun in Kerr's hand. Without hesitation, Estelle threw herself into Kerr's arms. Kerr then closed the door with Estelle in his embrace, leaving Griffin grinding his teeth at the doorway. It wasn't until Griffin felt like he was about to melt from the heat that he reluctantly picked up the food from the ground and returned to the house. However, without electricity, having meat and eggs was useless. In this scorching weather, everything would spoil within a day. I turned off the computer and pondered how Kerr had managed to obtain firearms. A sudden noise came from the basement door. Someone is banging on my door. Thinking of this, I immediately grabbed the stun baton and hammer I bought earlier and headed toward the door. Who's there? No one was speaking. He just kept knocking on the door, seemingly not intending to harm me. I turned on the computer again and checked the surveillance footage. It was the man I had saved earlier. I opened the door for him, and he immediately shoved a note into my hand before leaving. I closed the door again, unfolded the note, and saw the words Apocalypse Camp written boldly on it. According to Vance's description, the Apocalypse Camp also appeared in the previous life, but many people were scorched to death before they could reach it. The government simulated normal temperatures from before within the Apocalypse Camp. The previous government was making every effort to prepare, as it was uncertain when the apocalypse would end, all to ensure the people wouldn't suffer. The nation spent enormous resources to build an apocalypse shelter. I checked the location of the apocalypse shelter. It was surprisingly close to the villa. I clenched the note tightly. This matter would soon become known to others. Then I definitely can't go out, because Griffin and Estelle must know about the existence of an apocalypse shelter, so they might be trying to make their way here. If I run into them, it probably wouldn't be good for me, just as expected. The news about the government-established apocalypse shelter caused a huge uproar as soon as it was announced. Many people braved the scorching heat just to reach the base, but only a few persevered, as most perished on the journey to the base. Upon learning this, the government dispatched helicopters to evacuate people. The homeowners group had residents list how many family members they had. I didn't answer. I have no intention of letting Griffin come, but naturally, Griffin wouldn't just sit and wait for death. According to Vance, Griffin stole someone else's spot. That person was pushed down by him, and upon touching the scorching ground, their whole body went limp, dying from heat right in front of everyone. Many people screamed in horror. The SWAT team couldn't manage the large crowd and didn't notice what was happening on the side. Griffin arrived at the apocalypse base. Lachlan saw that I wasn't on the apocalypse base's roster and I wasn't there. Worried that I might be in danger, he came to find me again. Seeing me eating the strawberries, I held one up and asked, "Want some?" The base is safer, though the government is actively addressing everything remains uncertain now. I smiled and shook my head in refusal. I'm quite comfortable here. Let's leave the base for those who need it more. Not to mention Griffin is still in the base, although the base is secure. With so many people around, my death would hardly cause a ripple even if I were killed, so I refused. Lachlan seemed to want to say something but held back, ultimately respecting my decision. 8. It's been almost 2 months since the apocalypse began, and the weather isn't as scorching as it used to be. At night, I even dared to go outside to look at the moon. Suddenly, Faint rustling sounds came from not far away. Hearing familiar noises, I tiptoed toward the source of the sound. By moonlight, I saw Estelle and Kerr actually doing that kind of thing. Estelle seemed convinced no one was around and was moaning loudly. From their fragmented conversation, I learned they actually wanted to dominate the post-apocalyptic base. After all, Kerr knows a group that privately stockpiles firearms and ammunition. Kerr, you're really something. Heh, of course. My brother is naturally impressive. I secretly listened to their conversation and accidentally stepped into a dirt pit, twisting my foot as I left. They spotted me, so I immediately took off my shoes and ran towards the basement. I turned on the computer and saw them linger in front of my villa for a while before leaving without noticing anything. No wonder Kerr had a gun, but in the previous life, there was no news about a group of people possessing firearms and explosives. I know this matter might have gotten slightly out of hand, but since I'm aware of it, I certainly can't stand by and do nothing. The next day, when Lachlan came to deliver supplies, I told him about this matter. Upon hearing this, he frowned deeply and then signaled for me not to worry, assuring me he would handle it. I'm not really worried, since I'm in this safe house now and no one can harm me, but just in case, I made some simple traps at night when the weather wasn't so hot. Following online videos, the traps were quickly set up. Fortunately, I had bought a bit of everything beforehand, but I never expected these traps would come in handy so soon. That day, I was enjoying grilled meat while savoring the refreshing coolness of chilled watermelon, relishing the sizzling, juicy barbecue. What a delightful moment. Just then, I heard a mournful cry coming from outside. I turned on the camera but couldn't see anything. I realized it was in the camera's blind spot. It seems someone has triggered my trap, but soon I heard a very familiar voice. There's a trap here, bro. Looks like someone's nearby. It was Kerr's voice, and the person he called bro must be the one carrying firearms and ammunition. I instantly felt the grilled meat in my mouth lost its flavor. 9. Although my basement door has been reinforced, what if they use artillery shells? Now I can only pray they'll refrain from using artillery shells considering we're not far from the apocalypse base. Soon the computer screen showed a group of people gathered at the entrance of my villa. Quite a few people turned their gaze toward the basement door. Boss, could there be someone inside? The leader, addressed as boss, shifted his gaze to the basement door, and I even held my breath. Why not break it open and find out? Hearing this, my heart instantly sank, as if suddenly remembering something. I quickly messaged Vance to inform the SWAT team that someone was in possession of illegal explosives. I moved the furniture to block the basement entrance. The increasingly loud kicking sounds at the door made it shake continuously, as if my heart trembled along with it. Although I reinforced the door and knew they couldn't get in unless they used explosives, yet my heart remained uncontrollably panicked. Not good. The SWAT team is here, someone shouted, and the people who were just kicking the door instantly scattered like smoke. Lachlan came to the door and knocked. Don't be afraid. Little sister, we'll keep you safe. I opened the door, quickly glanced around, then showed Lachlan the video I'd just seen on my computer, pointing at the leader. I said, he's the boss of this gang. Lachlan frowned. Recently, the country discovered people illegally smuggling firearms and ammunition from abroad. They've already used these to seize food in multiple locations. Never expecting they'd set their sights on the apocalypse base too. Lachlan looked at me and said, don't worry. The government has noticed temperatures dropping recently. The high-temperature apocalypse is about to end. I nodded with a smile, having guessed this long ago. After all, only half a month remained until the end of the high-temperature apocalypse from the previous timeline. To ensure my safety, I decided to follow Lachlan to the apocalypse base. As for my supplies, I chose to save them. Lachlan nodded, approving of my decision. After all, I paid for these with my own money. After arriving at the post-apocalyptic base, it was no surprise that I ran into Griffin. You bitch, I'll show you how to die. Just as he reached up to hit me, I kicked him straight in the groin. He rolled on the ground in pain. I said, how can you be so rude? Woman, can't we talk this out properly? I looked at the person speaking up for Griffin, someone I didn't recognize. Vance had known I was coming, so she made a special trip to pick me up. Hearing what that person said, I rolled my eyes hard. None of your business. What are you? The neighborhood watch. The man had a refined appearance, adjusted his glasses, and continued, you women are just too petty, always vain and materialistic. The moment you see someone with a bit of money, you can't wait to run off with them. How despicable. I retorted, oh, could it be that your wife left you because you're broke? Well, she definitely made the right choice. A man with no money has no right to speak. You. Without waiting for him to speak, I grabbed Vance and left. On the day the apocalypse was declared over, before we could even rejoice, an incident broke out. Kerr barged into the apocalypse base with his brother Jareth, then began indiscriminately spraying bullets at the people in the apocalypse base. Vance and I were hiding in a wine cellar we had discovered, since today marks the end of the apocalypse. Most of the SWAT team went to inform civilians who hadn't come to the apocalypse shelter. Only a small contingent remained at the base and were caught completely off guard. Then I saw two nearly naked figures running away in the distance. It's Estelle and Griffin. Kerr naturally saw it too. He shouted and had the nearly naked pair seized. Estelle immediately knelt on the ground begging for mercy. Kerr, Griffin forced me into this. It's not my fault. Even though Griffin had lived 2 lifetimes, he was still afraid of this dark thing. Immediately lost control of bladder and bowels. Kneeling on the floor while slapping own face, Kerr isn't me, it was this damn woman who seduced me. She said she despised Kerr and wanted to vent with me. I wasn't far from Vance. Hearing Griffin's words crystal clear, I almost burst out laughing. That idiot Griffin, doesn't he realize saying such things at this moment will only make Kerr even more furious? Sure enough. The next second Kerr grabbed a knife from someone nearby and viciously stabbed Griffin in the lower body, at the base entrance. Lachlan arrived back with his men. Estelle was dragged into the vehicle by others, while Griffin lay in a pool of blood, his condition unknown. The apocalypse has completely ended. Everyone has returned to their original lives. I brought the police to my house and revealed everything I saw on the surveillance footage. With video evidence, Griffin and Estelle cannot escape blame for this. 10. The only difference is that Griffin had his lower body severed and was completely reduced to a useless cripple, yet upon waking he still kept shouting his disbelief. How could I possibly die when I'm someone who's been reborn into a second life? I laughed out loud at his words. Even after being reborn, he's still this stupid. If he doesn't die, then who should? Despite Griffin's act of pretending to be mentally ill, he was still taken away by the police. There's no other reason, because he wasn't mentally ill when he committed murder. Estelle remained missing until 1 month after the apocalypse ended, when her body was discovered in the wilderness. It had become too gruesome to look at, come to think of it. Being taken away by those desperados would surely mean brutal torture. Before long, the police located Jareth and his gang's hideout and rounded them all up. The remaining survivors in our neighborhood all gathered downstairs in the residential area, basking in the joy of having narrowly escaped death. Vance and I exchanged a knowing smile. Thankfully, we were both still in one piece. Story 2. After missing the subway that my husband was on, I found myself in a desperate struggle for survival with my child amidst apocalyptic conditions. Extreme weather, fluctuating between intense heat and severe cold, created a hell on earth. My 3-year-old daughter and I embarked on a seemingly hopeless journey to survive. I had no special powers, and my resources were limited. All I could do was carefully conceal the supplies I carried. In humanity's darkest moments, a bloody path of survival was trampled open. As the subway carrying my husband departed, I reassured my daughter that it was just a missed connection, but the next train was delayed indefinitely, and a terrifying wind began to surge through the station. Soon, rolling clouds of dust and a noisy crowd stormed in. I struggled to maintain my balance, one hand pulling a suitcase, the other holding my 3-year-old daughter. The suddenly dark subway station was chaotic with people pushing and shoving each other. People were shouting, "It's crazy. A sandstorm in the middle of summer, and it's the end of the world. It must be the apocalypse." I couldn't make out their faces, and their voices were loud and frantic. As the crowd surged, I struggled to stay upright, and then I heard the sound of breaking glass. A towering figure rushed past, knocking me down. I let go of the suitcase and focused on shielding my daughter in my arms. Countless people stepped over us. The pain was excruciating, as if my organs were rupturing. I kept my arms stiff, careful not to crush my daughter, but I couldn't get back up. Suddenly, the ground shook violently, and everyone fell over in a heap. I quickly rolled with my daughter to a spot where there was a gap. It seemed my calf was scratched by someone's shoe decoration, leaving a long gash. I didn't care about that. I just wanted to get my daughter to safety. Fortunately, I managed to find my suitcase again. With my daughter in one hand and the suitcase in the other, we huddled in a corner. The earthquake. It's all going to collapse. Is this place going to collapse too? I need to get out. People screamed and cried in the darkness. My mind flashed back to apocalyptic stories I had read. Daddy, Mommy, I want Daddy. My daughter's whisper reminded me. I hurriedly turned on my phone, but there was no signal. As screens around us lit up like stars, everyone remembered this moment in midsummer, at noon. The sandstorm followed by the earthquake marked the beginning of the apocalypse. The hurricane roared through the subway station, wrapped in sand. The temperature was rising rapidly, the air becoming as thick as butter, making breathing difficult. I felt a thick layer of sand beneath me, suggesting even worse conditions on the surface. I couldn't worry about distant family members or where my husband might have ended up. We were just tourists in this unfamiliar city when disaster struck. I could only do my best to take care of myself and my daughter. People around us were still shouting chaotically. They frequently mentioned apocalypse and natural disaster. Holding onto my suitcase, I knew I had to do something. I whispered reassurances to my daughter and carefully opened the suitcase. Even though everyone's visibility was limited, I knew better than to expose our supplies. Luckily, I had packed the suitcase meticulously and knew the location of every item. I first pulled out a bag of clothes to put a jacket on my daughter. then layered myself as much as possible. I stuffed all the children's medicine and snacks into the spaces between my undershirt and skin. My front and back were filled with different supplies, which gave me some peace of mind. I tucked a pack of calcium-rich cookies and 3 lollipops into my daughter's embrace and sleeves, warning her to keep them hidden. Then I broke a large loaf of bread from the suitcase in half to share with my daughter. We needed to replenish our energy quickly to endure the unknown future. My daughter, always understanding, nestled against me and ate the bread hungrily. I didn't care about the etiquette of eating slowly. I just hoped no one would notice us. I finally managed to get a cotton swab soaked in iodine and a medical dressing. I disinfected and dressed the gaping wound on my leg, gritting my teeth against the pain. Sand swirled around the subway station, making it impossible to see. And all around us were coughing sounds. I shielded my daughter with my body as she finished the bread in her hands, and immediately put masks on both her and myself. In the suitcase, I also found the swimming goggles she uses for baths, which are perfect to protect our eyes right now. After handling these little tasks, an hour had already passed. I heard people arguing behind me, debating whether to seek a way out on the surface or to continue waiting at the subway station. Just the underground wind was strong enough to whip sand and gravel against our faces, making it difficult even to stand and walk straight. While everyone was arguing, it was clear to all that going outside might lead to certain death. I didn't join the discussion. I just held my daughter and stroked her back. As I comforted her, I forced myself to think. I checked my supplies again. I carried basic medicines for colds, fevers, and disinfection, a handful of gold coin chocolates, lollipops, calcium milk biscuits, and high-calorie snacks like Shakima, Oreo, and Wamzai steamed buns. If we rationed, it would be enough for my daughter and I for 4 to 5 days, or 3 days for my family if I could reunite with my husband. The suitcase still held many spare clothes and assorted everyday items. I listened to the conversations around me for any useful information. This subway station exit also serves as a high-speed train station exit, located in a sparsely populated new district. Not far from here, there is a mountain with a military base stationed on it, which might be able to rescue us. As I was gathering my thoughts, a young boy with unique eyes stood in front of me. "Auntie, I saw you eating bread. I want some too." With the boy's voice rising, the chaotic scene suddenly quieted down. People gathered around, and all eyes were glued to my suitcase. It was now 1:30 p.m., and I clearly understood that hunger and panic were consuming everyone. Despite the blurry vision, I could feel the boy's earnest desire. Faced with an unknown disaster, I was unsure whether to manage the limited supplies for ourselves or to help more people. A pair of small hands clutched at me. My daughter nuzzled her cheek against me. I immediately felt a strong sense of purpose. I didn't want to be a hero. I was just a mother wanting to protect her child. However, the luggage in my daughter's neatly dressed protective gear had already attracted everyone's attention. "Auntie, I want something tasty too. Give me some," the boy kept asking. Behind him, an elderly couple also spoke up. "Comrade, don't be selfish. Everyone is hungry and trapped here. You can't just eat by yourselves." "That's right. Share some of those snacks and masks with us. You're clearly from out of town. You must have brought a lot of good stuff. Open the suitcase. Open the suitcase." The crowd's chanting became more unified. The boy who had been asking for food tried to pull off my daughter's mask. I knocked his hand away and held my daughter tight as we turned to face another direction. My hand rested on the suitcase, knowing it was impractical to keep guarding it at this moment. Fortunately, I had hidden the main supplies on my body in advance. I opened the suitcase in front of everyone, took out the remaining 2 packs of masks, and threw them out. A young man with a wolf-tail hairstyle jumped up and caught them. I then threw out some clothes belonging to my husband and me for them to use as protection. There were still many of my daughter's items in the suitcase that I was reluctant to give up. We just came for the weekend. We didn't bring much. As everyone could see the contents of the suitcase, some who got masks or clothing for face protection stopped pulling at me. Yet, a middle-aged bald man kept pressing forward. "You can't keep this, woman. Better just hand it over to me." He grabbed my already closed suitcase, trying to forcibly take it away. I knew I had to express my stance clearly and firmly at this moment. I grabbed his collar, yanked his head down to the ground, and swept my leg under his thick neck. I pulled off my sunglasses and held the temple of the glasses pointedly close to his eye. "The rest is just children's supplies. I need them to keep my daughter alive." I looked around fiercely. "I'm a gold belt from the province. Anyone thinking of squeezing me like a soft persimmon, better think twice. Think it over yourself." After that move, everyone temporarily stopped bothering me. Sitting on my suitcase, holding my daughter, I could hear the sound of rain rustling in the distance. The rain came with thunder, and quickly the water on the ground soaked the surface of my shoes. I'm not a champion dancer, just a dance student with some skills. But after spreading this self-protective lie, I had to firmly believe in my fabricated identity as a champion. The temperature continued to rise to unbearable levels, and torrential rain kept pouring into the subway station. The inside of the station gradually accumulated foul-smelling, dirty water that reached our ankles. People argued intensely again about whether to leave or stay. Though they were strangers who didn't trust each other, people tended to stick together in times of distress, so those who wanted to leave temporarily complied with those who chose to stay, until the sewage rose above our calves. The high temperature caused a man's lighter in his pocket to explode violently. When the man clutched his scorched thigh and screamed in pain, everyone realized that leaving was no longer a choice but a necessity. We supported each other and headed towards the nearest subway exit, in the glaring light and pounding rain. The aftermath of earthquakes and sandstorms left a profoundly silent, devastated scene. Some people wailed as they ran towards their homes, others knelt and wept, many just moved forward blankly. Perhaps their relatives in the city were already by their side. Amidst the storm, the scorching heat, collapsing structures, and water rising to our knees, I let my daughter sit on the suitcase and pulled it along with us. Suddenly, a force came, and my daughter fell off the suitcase. I quickly lifted her out of the water. The suitcase was ruined. It was the little boy who had earlier asked for food who had smashed the suitcase's wheels with a large stone. I knew keeping the suitcase would only endanger my daughter and me further. I decisively opened the suitcase, changed my daughter into dry clothes, and quickly dressed us both in disposable raincoats I had prepared for a water park. I packed our clothes into plastic bags, tied them around our arms, and abandoned the suitcase. Carrying my daughter, we moved to a higher step. I tied my hair into a neat bun. Behind me, countless people rummaged through my suitcase for items. The last man knocked others into the water with his fists and lifted the empty suitcase over his head like an umbrella. Just when everyone felt abandoned by the world, a crackling broadcast began. Extreme disaster has occurred. Staying indoors is the worst option. For everyone's safety, please remain calm and head to the northern base. North Base on Mount Du awaits your arrival. With the broadcast cutting off, suddenly a firework burst into the air ahead. I faintly made out the silhouette of a mountain, presumably where the northern base was located. The city's drainage system was long defunct, and the sewage had risen to thigh height. Carrying my daughter through the water, we headed towards the visibly higher terrain of the north. The ongoing high temperatures and rainfall were unbearable. People succumbed to heatstroke and fell into the water, only to be pulled out dead. One by one, people collapsed in the filthy water from heatstroke, electrocution, and sudden severe illnesses. Gradually, no one had the strength to retrieve the fallen anymore. Muffled sobs echoed around me. The boy who had damaged my suitcase approached me again. The water had risen above his belly. Along the way, different adults had helped him by pulling him along, but that had nothing to do with me. I had only to carry on with my daughter. He tugged at my daughter's leg from behind. "Auntie, everyone has carried me before. Now it's your turn." Pointing at my daughter, he said, "Let her down. It's my turn to be carried, and I want her raincoat too." I frowned and refused him. "I need to carry my daughter." "Find someone else," he persisted, pouting and starting to cry. "Auntie, I'm starving. Even if you won't carry me, you should at least give me something to eat. I'm a child just like your daughter." Tears and snot streamed down the little boy's face. My daughter whispered in my ear, "Mom, I don't want the brother to starve." Even though I disliked the child, I couldn't bear to watch him starve before my eyes. Hesitating, I silently searched my body, hoping to find a packet of cookies to give him. While I was momentarily distracted, he seized the opportunity to snatch my daughter off my back. He tore my daughter's raincoat and stomped her head into the filthy water. I was so enraged that I felt like a murderer, and I kicked the young boy away from us. I quickly picked up my daughter, desperately trying to calm her and wipe her down. The boy stood up from the water, spitting out the filthy water from his mouth. He pointed at my daughter and said, "This kind of trash will die sooner or later. Auntie, you might as well adopt me as your son. That would be a real blessing." Behind the boy, that nosy old couple appeared again. They wiped the boy's face with sympathy, scolding me. "It's sinful how you could strike such a good boy. No wonder your husband isn't by your side, you heartless woman." The boy took the opportunity to hug the old man's neck affectionately, calling out, "Grandpa, Grandma, I'll be your grandson." I scoffed. "Isn't this a perfect opportunity for you to show your kindness by taking care of this wonderful child?" The old man, gritting his teeth, carried the boy on his back. The boy looked at me triumphantly, unconcerned about the old man's trembling legs beneath him. I ignored them, focusing on getting my daughter to keep moving. Gradually, I noticed my daughter was unusually silent and shivering. I quickly turned back and held her close again. "Mommy, it hurts." Her forehead was burning hot with fever. With the pouring rain and flooding, I realized I was on my own. The digital thermometer I had hidden away was malfunctioning. Unsure of her exact temperature, I could only give her some fever-reducing medicine. Holding the thermos around my neck, I let her sip some water and applied a cooling patch to her forehead. As I was wrapping my raincoat around my daughter, a new drowning incident occurred ahead. People kept disappearing into the water ahead, making everyone hesitant to proceed. It seemed the recent earthquake might have caused a collapse in the road ahead, but it was unclear where exactly. Staying put on this essential northern route was clearly not wise. At that moment, a man claiming to be the editor-in-chief of a new media outlet stepped forward. I recognized him as the bald man who had tried to steal my suitcase in the subway. Despite his unremarkable appearance, he spoke with a persuasive force. He called for young people who could swim to bravely step forward, promising national fame and potential internet stardom through front-page headlines for their heroic acts. After his stirring speech, a few individuals stepped forward. They were either young couples in love, children wanting to protect their parents, or husbands bidding farewell to their wives and children. In pairs, they cautiously moved forward, hand in hand. Everyone watched them in silence. As any words seemed inadequate at that moment, suddenly a thump was heard. The old man had collapsed from exhaustion. The boy quickly got up and climbed onto the old woman's back as she bent down to help her husband. No one paid them any attention. In the torrential rain, even with uncertain outcomes ahead, 6 brave souls continued to navigate for everyone. It felt like half an hour. Perhaps it was only 10 minutes. Those moments belonged to the 6 silhouettes. Each person who disappeared into the water was etched in everyone's memory. Ultimately, only the young couple survived. Their parents rushed forward, tearfully embracing them. Everyone proceeded in their direction. The bald man who had organized the scouting no longer made a sound. In this game of life and death, no one felt joy over mere survival. Everyone moved forward in silence. Gradually, the rain stopped. Cheeks felt dry for the first time in a while. It seemed we had finally escaped danger. And smiles slowly returned to people's faces as they comforted and encouraged each other. Yet, my daughter's high fever persisted. Confused and in pain, she whimpered softly, "Daddy, why hasn't Daddy come to find us?" I too remembered my husband, whom we had missed at the subway station, uncertain of when we might see him again. My melancholy was interrupted by a series of piercing screams. I quickly looked up only to see a dark mass swooping toward the crowd. So many bugs. The bugs are going to eat us. From high above, the sky was filled with bugs as far as the eye could see. It was a swarm so vast and dense, impossible to comprehend or identify. In an instant, everyone instinctively searched for shelter. Despite the risk of another earthquake, I grabbed my daughter and followed a group of people into a triangularly collapsed shop by the roadside. Everyone spontaneously searched inside the shop for heavy objects to press down the mosquito curtains at the door. In the blink of an eye, the swarm had already flown up to us. Those who had not managed to get inside were engulfed by the bugs, letting out chilling screams immediately. One person shook violently as if mad, finally falling heavily into the water. Those who failed to find shelter met with misfortune one after another, and before long, except for those who had taken refuge inside, the entire street was eerily deserted, unable to bite anyone. The bugs layered thickly on the outside of the door curtain. It was as if thousands of bug eyes were staring right at us. I heard someone trying to suppress the urge to retch, yet not daring to make a sound. Absolute silence prevailed inside, everyone being extremely cautious even with their breathing. We all knew it was going to be difficult to go outside now. Time passed slowly, and everyone was exhausted and desperate, until at some unknown hour, the reassuring broadcast played again. A sudden bug disaster has struck the nation, and we are urgently dealing with it. Please make sure to stay hidden. We hope to see everyone again at the northern base after the bug disaster has passed. After the arrival of the bug disaster, the rain stopped. The accumulated water on the ground gradually receded. The continuously glowing and bright sun, although unbearably hot, was the only source of security during the bug disaster. Having hidden in this partially collapsed, flooded triangular house for who knows how long, everyone was both tired and hungry. They rummaged through the house, scrambling to devour unopened packets of instant noodles, dairy products, and candies. However, the few snacks available were not enough to share among everyone in the house. I did not act. Knowing I had no right to be generous, I refrained from fighting for extra food. My daughter's persistent fever worried me. I held her in a corner, quietly administering another dose of fever medicine. I changed the cooling patch on her forehead. I couldn't bear to throw away the old one, so I stuck it over my heart. Stifled by the heat, my daughter leaned limply against me, her usually sweet dimples having not appeared for a long time, holding my daughter, who felt as lifeless as a noodle. The panic in my heart grew. I took out a sakama, coaxing my daughter to eat it. Being sensible, she sensed my anxiety and in turn, stroked the back of my hand. "Mommy, don't worry, I'll always be with you," I nodded, feeding her small bites until she finished the entire sakama. "Grandma and Grandpa, I want to eat sakama too," the little boy yelled again, drawing everyone's attention to the sakama package I was holding. The elderly couple haughtily accused me. "Ever since the subway station, she has only looked after herself. She originally had such a big suitcase." She must be hiding something. Someone search her. There will definitely be something to find. I held my daughter close as a shield, stealthily pulling another sakama from behind and slipping it into my pocket. Facing a room full of greedy eyes, I braced myself for the worst. Several men stepped up to me first. Hand over everything you have. Don't force us to get rough. I stood up, holding my daughter. What right do you have to search me? I said. Pretending to panic and retreating step by step, the men pressed forward, step by step. Just because our fists are harder than yours, if you don't want your daughter to get hurt too, just do as we say. I took a large step back to the doorway, facing a group of men raising their fists. I turned my daughter's face into my chest, raised my hand to shake the door curtain. As I shook it, the bugs clinging to the outside of the door curtain also took flight and fell back down, creating a terrifying sea of insects. Let go. What are you trying to do? My actions frightened several men, stopping them from advancing, while others in the room started speaking up. Come on, we're all just trying to survive here. Don't do anything rash. I raised my voice. If you're trying to push me to my death, then none of you should live. They backed off as others persuaded them, yet they kept a wary eye on me. I fumbled around and threw out a sakama I had secretly packed earlier. This was a snack I packed for my daughter before we left. No, it's from her to you. I didn't know how long we would be stuck in this room, but my daughter was already sick and couldn't handle any more shocks, so I had to let go of the sakama. I saw that girl had a lollipop. I want a lollipop, the little boy yelled again, causing the briefly calmed atmosphere to tense up once more. An old woman defensively scolded, "You heartless wretch. Don't you see my grandson is still hungry? Hand over that lollipop now." An old man joined in. Girls are born to be lowly. Any food should rightfully go to the boys. My daughter trembled in my arms as I picked up a brick that was holding down the curtain and hurled it. The irregular brick hit the old man's foot, drawing blood instantly, and he cried out in pain. A piece of the shattered brick rebounded and cut the little boy's forehead. I spoke coldly. My daughter has a high fever that won't go down, and that lollipop is the only food she has. If anyone dares to take it, I'm prepared to die with her. Mom, don't be afraid. My daughter, frightened herself, still reached out to comfort me by holding my hand. I looked at the greedy faces around me, and at the dense swarm of insects outside the curtain. I felt neither fear nor disgust, just extreme exhaustion. I lowered my head and managed to smile for my daughter. The water had receded to just covering the surface of our shoes, and the temperature returned to the normal summer heat. The incessant buzzing of insects behind me felt like it was coming from inside my head. The minute flapping of their wings, amplified by the thousands gathered, was particularly grating. I hadn't eaten and dared not eat anymore. Like many others in the room, I was weak from hunger. My daughter's fever persisted, and I clutched my heart, trying not to show my vulnerability. All I did was maintain my grip on the curtain while holding my daughter. I was on the verge of breaking down but dared not let myself go. At that moment, a young girl stepped in front of me. I straightened up warily, watching her smile at me. She whispered, "Sister, you look exhausted. Sit down and rest with your child. I'll watch the curtain for you." I looked back at her in surprise. She seemed like a high school student. Then a younger boy stood beside her. I remembered him. The agile boy with a wolf's tail who had caught my mask at the subway station. The boy gave me a friendly smile. "Sister, we really want to help you. If our mom were here today, she would fight just as hard for us." Perhaps I was too tired, or maybe it was their sincerity that touched me. I decided to indulge myself a little, though still apprehensive. I sat by the wall next to the curtain. The girl secretly slipped a candy into my palm. It was a sweet and sour plum candy. I ate it quietly, half wary, half moved, and continued to watch the room's activities. Suddenly, the insects on the curtain began to fly away. Whatever measures the authorities had taken seemed to be working, and soon, less than half of the insects remained. People started to talk, hope rekindling with the news that the pest control broadcast seemed effective, but my daughter's high fever persisted. No amount of rubbing my hands or massaging her had any effect. Her forehead was burning up, and she convulsed from the fever, her body twisting uncontrollably. I suppressed my panic and searched my mind for anything I could do to help her. After some effort, I finally managed to calm my daughter's convulsions. She was so tiny, curled up in my arms, sobbing from the pain of her fever. Her sobbing annoyed some of the people around us. Their voices grew louder and harsher. "Enough with the crying already. Just take it outside. Why bring a kid along at a time like this? If it were up to me, I'd just toss her outside for the bugs. Yeah, throw her out. We don't need that crying here. I'm fed up enough as it is." I covered my daughter's ears, not wanting her to hear these harsh, dismissive words. I looked towards the door curtain. Most of the bugs had flown away by now. I decided to leave. If people completely lost their sanity, my daughter and I would only face greater dangers. I wrapped her completely with the remaining scraps of clothing and a tattered raincoat, and did my best to protect myself as well. I thanked the siblings who had been guarding the door for me. As we shook hands, I slipped 3 gold coin chocolates into the sister's hand. They were still just kids, barely out of school. I hoped they would safely reunite with their families. I pulled back a corner of the door curtain and left the triangular house with my daughter in my arms. The air was filled with a strange fragrance. The terrifying bugs seemed especially listless because of it. They swayed erratically in flight before suddenly dropping to the ground. The ground was covered with their dark brown bodies, filling the air with a foul stench. I found a secluded corner to increase my daughter's dose of her regular anti-inflammatory and fever-reducing medication. I broke the gold coin chocolates to soothe her, letting her melt them in her mouth, and stuffed a large piece into my own mouth to chew. I encouraged her to drink more water from her thermos, hoping her fever would break soon. After refueling a bit, I carried my daughter on my back and continued heading toward the northern base. By then, many people had started emerging from the shelters. Their wet shoes squeaked against the bodies of the bugs. No one had the energy to complain or gossip anymore. Everyone moved forward silently and wearily. I stayed at the very back of the group, not wanting to cause any more trouble. At that moment, I too was exhausted, and my thin daughter felt as heavy as 1,000 pounds on my back. She clung to my neck. "Mommy, will we be safe once we get to the northern base?" "Yes, we'll be safe soon." I nodded firmly to reassure her, though I felt the base was still agonizingly far away. I saw a figure in the distance getting closer. He stumbled toward us. "Daddy, look, Mommy. Daddy's coming." My daughter's cries of joy and his warm embrace overwhelmed us. We hugged tightly as a family. The tears I had been holding back silently started to flow. As we moved forward, the number of people on the road dwindled sharply. Corpses in various states of death littered the area. I coaxed my daughter to sleep for a while, urging her not to open her eyes. As the temperature plummeted, the sky quickly turned pitch black, as if we had abruptly switched from a scorching perpetual daylight to a freezing eternal night. The only light was the hazy moonlight hanging high, barely allowing us to see the people next to us. Faced with this bizarre weather, everyone felt both absurd and helpless. The cold was more unbearable than the heat, causing our legs to tremble involuntarily and frost to form on our eyelashes. It seemed that the sudden drop in temperature had triggered sudden fatal illnesses among those on the road. We began searching the houses along the street, wrapping ourselves in any clothing, blankets, or scooter cloaks we could find. My daughter was bundled into a round ball by my husband and me and held in our arms. "Look what I found," my brother exclaimed with a cry of surprise, prompting us to gather around quickly. He had found a bucket of unopened mineral water. With our throats already tight, we lined up to drink. We took turns eagerly drinking from the bucket. With the weather changing so drastically, and everyone feeling cold and tired, it was not suitable to continue our journey. We decided to rest in the house where we found the water source. We shared some food, hoping to enhance our ability to withstand the cold. We took turns keeping watch, each of us managing to get some relaxed sleep in shifts. When we awoke again, it was still dark, but our bodies felt much more comfortable. The long silent radio suddenly came to life. "Northern Base is fully prepared to receive refugees. Let's all work together to overcome this hardship." Fireworks burst in the sky, the mountain obscured by the dark night, yet the fireworks seemed so close. "I hope everyone can arrive safely," I said, voicing what was on my mind. My husband squeezed my hand, and my daughter made a wish. "I hope to always be with Mommy and Daddy forever." The younger brother laughed and said, "I hope my sister becomes more ladylike and stops thinking about hitting me." His sister slapped him on the back of his head. "I hope we still have a chance to worry just about grades and losing weight." We chuckled quietly, making light of our dire situation. We resumed our journey in the dark. In the bone-chilling wind, snowflakes began to drift down. The snowflakes, large as fingernails, landed on us and did not melt quickly. The weather had changed again, and I distinctly remember. It was supposed to be the peak of summer in June 16. The exaggerated snowfall soon turned into even more exaggerated hail, starting as small as grains of rice, then growing to the size of longans. The hail bruised anyone it struck. Unable to see where the hail was coming from in the dark, we scrambled to pick up any available item to shield our heads: discarded backpacks, broken planks, plastic stools. At this moment, any ordinary object became a lifesaver. People wearing all sorts of strange items continued toward the northern base, said to be less than 5 kilometers away. Everyone knew it would be better to find shelter from the hail, but facing this bizarre and unpredictable weather, the fear of the unknown was greater than the immediate terror, so everyone pressed on against the wind and hail. The hail had grown as large as eggs. The sister in our group slipped, and her brother quickly reached out to help her. His exposed head was immediately struck by the hail, bleeding profusely. 17. We retreated back into the house, where I quickly disinfected the wound with an iodine swab. Unable to use a band-aid on his head, we wrapped it loosely with the cleanest piece of clothing we had as a makeshift protection. The brother insisted on not resting any further, so we gave him the thickest plank to use. He wasn't the only one injured along the way. Many had been knocked unconscious on the spot. A young woman, throwing away her head covering, looked up and yelled, If heaven loves to torment us this much, then just kill me. The mood plummeted to freezing. With the howling cold wind, it felt like we were heading to an appointment with death. Before we could decide whether it was right to continue, nature tested us again. Suddenly, a piercing wind noise erupted, and a massive gust that might as well have been a tornado appeared before us. I had never seen anything like it. Debris flew into the air. Blown about, people closed their eyes, their feet shifting involuntarily. I couldn't hold on to my husband, nor could I protect my daughter. The hurricane completely scattered our group of 5. I struggled in vain as I watched my husband and daughter drift further and further away from me. I was swept up by the hurricane, feeling as if my soul was being ripped from my body. Involuntarily, I was toyed with by the wind. Only when the wind began to subside did I manage to stand on solid ground. Shouting my daughter's name loudly, calls for loved ones rose and fell around me, creating a grand scene of despair. More bodies appeared on the streets. Among them, I recognized familiar faces. At my feet lay an old man who had once been my adversary, dead from vomiting blood. His body swayed, and a little boy I hadn't seen in a long time crawled out from underneath him. It seemed the old man had shielded the boy from the hurricane and hail with his body. Yet the boy coldly rummaged through the old man's pockets for supplies before moving on to search other bodies. I couldn't believe a child of about 10 could be so heartless. A smaller tornado quickly approached. The lightweight boy was immediately swept up into the air. No one was there to protect him now. He noticed me and his eyes lit up. "Auntie, save me. Auntie, I know you're a good person." I quickly retreated and turned to swiftly leave the area, while dodging the wind. I heard my husband's response. I ran towards him joyfully, only to find his arms empty, with no sign of our daughter. My husband told me he had left our daughter in a supposedly safe house. As he spoke, the ground shook violently. Another earthquake had struck. I broke out in a cold sweat, terrified of thinking what might happen to my daughter alone in that house. He grabbed my hand, and we ran together. Along the way, we saw collapsed houses, heard cries for help, and encountered others with terror-stricken faces trying to rescue their loved ones. Eventually, my husband and I stood before a pile of rubble. My mind went blank, unable to imagine my daughter under the debris. I called out her name loudly, but there was no response. My husband expressed his regret, but I was too preoccupied to care. I crouched and knelt in front of the rubble, frantically removing bricks and stones, ignoring the risk of aftershocks and the principles of collapse. I was desperate to see my daughter. My husband joined me in digging. The aftershocks hit quickly, shaking us together before we separated and continued our frantic digging. There was no turning back for me. I had to see my daughter. My fingernails were loosened by the bricks, blood filling them. I couldn't tell if it was the pain in my heart or in my hands as I dug through tears. My husband's hands were also bloody as he gasped for air, trying to move all the large bricks. I was close to despair. But then, mercy shone through. I saw a familiar small hand, bloodied, peeking through the hard, black crevices of the bricks. I cried out her nickname and grasped it, feeling the warm and faint grip in return. I sobbed, "Don't be scared. Mommy and Daddy will get you out soon." My husband also dug desperately. "Just hang on a little longer, sweetheart." When we finally pulled our daughter from the debris, it was hard to tell whose blood covered whom more. My heart overflowed with unspeakable relief and a surge of protective instinct for my daughter. Her soft, lotus root-like legs were covered in wounds. She must have been in terrible pain, yet she just blinked, refusing to cry out in pain. I knew Mommy and Daddy would come to save me. I didn't even sleep. I kissed her forehead, her hair, her temples, hastily bandaging her while unleashing my overwhelming love. Her small hand rested on my chest, and she said earnestly, "Mommy, I've lost so much blood. I must be dying." "Don't say that." She just held me tighter. "Mommy, if I'm going to die, I want to die in your arms." I gently hugged her, our cheeks touching, as I made a solemn yet chaotic promise. We used all the medical supplies we had on hand to barely manage disinfecting and stopping her bleeding. My husband and I took turns carrying our daughter in a princess carry, limping back on the road. After an endless night, the sun rose again. The temperature gradually returned to normal. No one thought about when the next extreme weather would hit. They only focused on the muddy mountain roads beneath their feet. Yes, we had finally reached the mountain path leading to the northern base. Due to frequent disasters, rocks occasionally fell from the mountain. People who had struggled to get here still faced the danger of losing their lives to falling rocks. But with the northern base just a kilometer ahead, no one wanted to give up at this moment. My husband, fully alert, walked in front of me and our daughter, step by step. We walked like this for a long time. Once again, we hear the long-missed sound of a broadcast. "Welcome to the Northern Survivor Base, where you will join all other survivors to build a new home." I see the base gates slowly opening and the formidable guards standing by. Inside, a brother and sister eagerly wave at us. A person dressed as a doctor rushes over to tend to the daughter's injuries. For a moment, it seems as if I can hear the sound of a subway starting up. Having once faced hell, it feels like now I am witnessing a rebirth.